about Autocall in the past. This is just going to be about the addressable notification appliances, and whether you're looking for info about Autocall or Simplex, it's all the same thing these days. I was actually fortunate enough to be sent to factory training for Autocall, so I am certified to program the small Autocall panels. So that's very exciting. And I can show some things with the software. I'm not going to show too much, but mostly I'm going to be talking while having a bowl of ramen because that's how we do things. So addressable notification appliances are not really new, so to speak, but they are still new enough that there's not a whole lot of information out there about them, and it's not easy to find information about them. So, but I do know it's been around for quite some time. And, in fact, I'll even look it up. See exactly when addressable notification was released. When were they invented? So but these systems are they have been around for a little while, at least since 2014, when the Simplex 4007 ES was released. And I need to put my laptop on the charger. Hold on. Now, I will admit, when I first heard that we were going to start doing Autocall, I was like, man, there's addressable notification is ridiculous. Like, I was already kind of blind to addressable systems from the start because I thought it was just, a redundancy. But there's a lot of redundancies in fire alarms. And honestly, these days, I would much rather have to troubleshoot an addressable device in a conventional circuit. Because one device goes bad, it sends the circuit into trouble and you don't know where it is. With a ground fault, it's even worse. You have to just pull wires until the ground fault goes away. And that's really not fun. And so, being addressable, if a device has a fault, it will tell you exactly which device instead of, which circuit it's on, which is a big help, especially if you fill out your descriptions really, really well. And another case that this is really good for is for hotels. Oh my gosh. This works wonders in hotels and apartments and stuff like that, because you've got selective signaling in those. And if the smoke detector in the room goes off, you want it to sound either the sounder bass, the horn, the strobe, the speaker, or the speaker strobe that's in there, but you only want it to do the ones in that room. You don't ever want a smoke detector in a hotel room to go into general alarm. So that's how that goes. So instead of, you do still have to run the same amount of wires, but instead of having to do a control module for each room, you just put an addressable horn or speaker strobe, and you just program it the way that you would program a monitor module, which basically just works by going into custom control. And I'll talk about the software a little bit right here. You just go into custom control, you have to make an equation. Basically, like, whenever this device goes off, you will track the output, and you put it as this, and then maybe this and this outputs. Say that you've got multiple speakers in that room, or that suite rather. And it will track those. It will hold them on until the smoke detector clears. So that's a really cool feature. You know, you can divide things into NACs just by, you know, how you want instead of by how it's wired. So that's something that's really, really cool, and it's really helpful for hotels and stuff like that. Another thing you can do with the capabilities of these is you can do something that is, you can program something with a feature called self-test. So what self-test is you can basically make, this is also in custom control, you go into the scheduled self-test wizard, and then you would create a self-test. And you can have this set to do weekly, monthly, or even annually. And, you know, you could generate a report based off of the test results. And like, there's audio sensors and there's light sensors in the devices that will pick up the sound. And they're only active during that self-test, if that makes sense. So like, they will only pick up any sort of signal whenever the self-test is being run. And you can have the self-test run with a push of a button on the panel, or like I said, you can set it to do like, you know, a Sunday, or like the first Sunday of the month, or something like that. You could even have it do it every day. Like if it's a restaurant and they close at night, you know, like after like a couple hours after they close, you can have it do a blast every week. And you can even have the panel go into trouble if any of them fail, and it'll tell you which one failed. But you can also pull that report, and you can send it to the fire marshal, and then that could be your annual inspection right there, part of it. You still have to go around and check all the devices, make sure that none are painted, none are blocked, none are damaged, stuff like that. So like if there is a problem with the device, you should definitely be going and looking at it. And then the fire department can make the decision from there, like, you know, whether they should be charged for that or whatnot, or if they'll need to have it replaced, or they'll get fined, stuff like that. And it is UL listed to be done, and just use that as your annual test. But I mean, you still got to do a visual inspection. You can't just blast all the stuff, pull the report, and call it a day. But yeah, that's a really useful function. That's another really good one. And then selective signaling is also another really good one. Like if you've got you know, multiple riser rooms, or if you're doing an install in a warehouse or a building that has multiple remote risers for the sprinkler system, and they require a horn strobe at each individual riser, instead of having to run aux power and SLC, you can just run your NAC, because it's addressable, and then just map that device with those two. So like if either of these two go off, activate this, hold it on, and you know, you can make it silenceable or not silenceable. For water flow, you would make that non-silenceable. And yeah, and then, you know, you could even, like if there's a jurisdiction that requires you know, a horn strobe and a bell, and like if you have to put a NAC card in to put in a bell, you could even program, like if water flow is activated, it's going to activate general alarm, but you might not want to have the bell and the horn strobe going off, the bell and the outdoor horn. So you can have it hold off. You can have it hold the horn strobe off, and then just the bell will ring. Or you could just have the strobe flash and keep the horn off. that's a really cool feature. That's something I would definitely do, just because the mix of signals, the bell being in continuous, the horn being in temporal, it would be a lot. But with the strobe still flashing, I'm sure the fire department would appreciate it. And that's another thing. You can group, have just strobes go off. You can have just horns go off. There's a lot of different functionalities that you can make with these types of systems. And you could even put in a monitor module to monitor a button or a key switch or something. Like if you run out of spaces on your panel to do, bypasses like, a horn strobe bypass or speaker bypass, and then maybe you have an RTU bypass, water flow bypass. If you need another one, you could put a monitor module up and have it monitor a key switch, something like that, and then just map it to a pseudo point. And then whenever that is activated, you can make a whole nother bypass out of it, which is really cool. And a really expensive option to get around this would be you could get an annunciator just to have more bypasses, which would be ridiculous, but it is an option. Because with the 4007, you only have 3 user buttons on the main panel. The annunciator only has 3, which they don't have to mirror the main panel. You can have its own set of bypasses. The 4100 has 7 of them, so you could have 7 bypasses. So there's definitely a lot to it, and I wish I could show you, but I'd have to look at the rules and figure out if that's something that I should even try to show you guys. Just because this is proprietary software, and it really doesn't need to be redistributed to anyone that doesn't need to have it. So yeah, but there are a lot of really interesting things that you can do. All of these panels come with a touchscreen. The 4007, the 4010 does not. Some of them do, but most of them don't. The 4017, which is a brand new panel that is going to hit the market next year, that one comes with default with a touchscreen, and the 4100 can come with a touchscreen. So yeah, and these are all in the ES product line, and these are both carried by Simplex and Autocall. But if you go with Autocall, it's probably going to be cheaper. But yeah, that's kind of my whole spiel about addressable notification, being able to T-tap as well. I don't think I talked about that yet. Yes, you can T-tap the NACs. You can even T-tap the speakers. And Autocall, they actually encourage it. So like if you call tech support, they'll probably tell you, like, put the end-of-line resistors on the card, on the panel, and then you can T-tap all that you want. And it's not against code, it's not against UL to do this, because the devices themselves, they actually monitor, like a control module, they monitor for that incoming speaker line. And if it goes down, like if it gets unhooked from the panel or if a wire gets cut, all the devices past it will let you know that there is a problem and that it's got a speaker fail. So that's really nice. And doing T-taps is also really helpful for reducing voltage drop. Like say you've got wire going down this way, down a really short corridor, and then these long wings, instead of having to go all the way down and then do a return path, you could just do a T-tap right here, run down that way, and then run down this way. Because if you do this and then do a return path, your voltage drop is going to be a lot greater right here, as opposed to if you just T-tap it right here. So like at the start of this next device down the short hallway, you're not going to have as much voltage drop. But if you did the over and back you will. So that's something that T-taps are good for. And no, I put a comment on Facebook one time. I was like, my designer actually puts T-taps in for Autocall. He's like, someone's like, bad designer. I'm like, no, you have no idea what in the world you're talking about. From an engineering standpoint, it absolutely makes sense. You know, from a technological standpoint, it makes sense. From a hobbyist standpoint, it might not, but it doesn't really need to make sense. You just got to follow the orders that you're given, especially if you're a helper. So, but yeah, anyway, that's just kind of the basics. If y'all have any questions about this stuff, leave a comment down below. I'm always open to answering any questions that y'all have. I know information about these systems is not very easy to come across. And there are also two different types of addressable devices. It's very simple though. You've got Truealert Addressable, and then you've got Truealert ES. And they can be mixed on the same circuits, but you have to program them differently. So there's going to be the Truealert in the drop-down menu in the program, which is going to be at the bottom of that list, and then Truealert ES will be all the way at the top of that list. And how you know which one is which? Well, one of them, the stealing devices are circular, and the Truealert Addressable, those are rectangular. So that's a very simple way to tell. So yeah, if I go over to, if I go and look up some Truealert ES, I can actually show you guys. I will say these are not the most appealing looking devices. All right, so these are the devices that we all know and love right here, the wall and the ceiling. But we go down here, you can see, you know, that's another one that we know, but it says Truealert ES. These are new. These are the LED ones. They only make them in strobe and horn configurations. They do not make them for speakers, unfortunately. I really don't know why, because, you know, like Simplex is way ahead of everybody else with all their technology, and yet they're still running gas strobes as far as, you know, their main lines go. But here's one of the ceiling addressable Truealert ES horn or speaker strobes. The horn strobes look exactly the same as the speaker strobes. There's actually no way to tell that whether this is a horn or a speaker right here. And I will say, these do not look as bad in person, okay? Especially when they're centered on a ceiling tile. You can center them on a ceiling tile, as opposed to, you know, one of the 4906s, this guy. If you center the box on the ceiling tile, the strobe's going to hang off, and then it's not going to look like it's centered. See, like this. So that's something about those, is you have to offset it a little bit just so the device will appear to be centered. But with the Truealert ES, the circular devices, which I've nicknamed them apples, that you can center it and it will look fine. Just because, you know, it's circular, and you can get these in different colors too. You've got, of course, red and white, but there are also black. There's also black devices, and I think they look really, really nice. And here's what one of the remote strobes looks like. And one thing that is annoying about these is they will only mount on a 4-square. They will not mount on a handy box or anything like that. The Truealert ES devices, whether it's a horn, a strobe, or a speaker, it absolutely has to go in a 4-square. So yeah, the speakers don't need extension rings though. That is something that's really nice about them. And yes, you see this right here. There's also a Truealert ES LED messaging board. That's right, it wires just straight into the SLC on the IDNAC, and then you can program it to do different messages. So like you can see right here, that device, well actually you can't really see it that well, but let me see if I can find a picture of one that is mounted on a ceiling tile, just so I can kind of give you an example, like maybe this right here. But I'll keep looking, just because, you know, I really want to illustrate this for y'all. So basically just looking, and right here you can see there's one, and it looks perfectly normal. It looks perfectly fine like that. All right, now here is one of these that that one does look like it's centered, and of course the smaller the ceiling tile, the more it's going to stick out, like this one does, you see. But with the larger ceiling tiles, it's not as noticeable. So this one, the box might be centered, but the strobe probably hangs off a little bit. And here's one of the black devices. These do look nice. I really like these, and I actually own one. I got it off of eBay. It was just a cover, but then of course, you know, me being me, I bought a speaker to go with it. And I was able to bypass the addressable stuff and just put it straight to the speaker, and my gosh, was it ever loud. But once I turned my sound down, it was the best sounding speaker that I had ever heard. It was really, really good. So here's what one of these devices looks like. You can see you got the 4 holes, which means that it will only mount on a 4 square. It won't mount on a 411, absolutely not. Another thing I don't like about these though is these screw slots. They don't have keyholes. So, you know, apart from everything else, the wall devices do have keyholes. All of the wall devices have keyholes. But the ceiling devices don't for some reason, and that's not right. Autocall and Simplex, they've got to grow up. They've got to get keyhole screw slots. Like, especially for these, I've installed a few of these. Those definitely don't have keyhole screw slots. So it's just, you know, like, come on. You know, they're so far ahead in so many things, and yet they're behind on little things like that, which are actually really annoying. And I hope none of you ever have to work on one of these, have to take one of these apart. If you do, you got to pry the strobe from this side. If you try to do it from this side, you're going to break it. But those are basically meant to be like a one and done. If you have to take it apart, you better have a backup handy, because you're more than likely going to break it. Okay, so here's actually a picture of what one of these looks like. So the programmer, the AV audible visual, indoor general evac, and then the tone. You can set the coding type. So if you have like a multi-tone device for your riser room, you can set that one to bell and set it to like March time, because I kind of like March time. You can do it March 120, March 90, March 20, and then March 60. Not necessarily in that order, but yeah. But all this stuff right here, that only applies for speakers. So I'm not sure why it shows an audible visual right there. But well, at the same time, you know, I don't know everything. So yeah. Another thing that I do not like is the screw terminals on the back of these things. Like, those are tiny. So like, if you're still running your NACs in 14.2, stop it. With addressable Truealert ES, you do not need to run wire that is that large, because these actually run at 29 volts, which means you're going to have less current draw, which means you're going to be able to run more devices. Just like speakers, you know, running speakers at 25 volts or 70 volts, if you run them at 70 volts, you have less current draw, and therefore you can drive more speakers with them. So if you get the choice, always go with 70 volt speakers, because then you can drive more. So yeah, that's my whole spiel on this whole thing. Another thing that they have that's actually really nice is they've got, so this talks about this touchscreen right here, but there's also this map right here of the building. If you have one of these, I guarantee you, your fire department is going to love you. They are just going to be like, man, that's one place I want to get a fire call for, because it's going to be very quick to figure things out. You know, you want to be the guy that's just like, oh man, if something ever happens there, I want to be the guy that, you know, runs that operation and, you know, saves the day. So, yeah, just kind of one of those things. But, yeah. So that's pretty much it as far as the addressable devices go, which you can see right here. There's a video talking about the addressable self-test feature and why this guy likes the addressable notification appliances. Go check out this video from Dante Stoner. Dante Stoner put up this video about 2 years ago. Make sure you go and subscribe to him. Leave a like and comment on his video, and maybe even tell him that I sent you. So anyway, that's it. I'm done with this video. I appreciate y'all tuning in and watching. So here's one that's mounted on a mirror or glass. Yeah, that's on glass. That's pretty funny. But yeah, here's one of the mounting plates for one of the wall devices, and the speakers look pretty much the same. This one is an Apple device because it's a TrueAlert ES. I've nicknamed them Apples because it has APPL in the part number. So like you can see, if I pull up one of these right here, you see 49VO APPLC, which means it's a visible only, and it's an Apple ceiling mount. The C means ceiling mount. If it were APPLW, that would be wall mount, and then APPLW-O would be weatherproof. So yeah, anyways, hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know if you'll have any questions, any further questions, anything I didn't think of that just popped into your head. And yeah, as always, I will talk to you guys real soon. Thank you.